This is CHSR 97.9 FM here in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. This is Python's Paradise, excuse me, your film and music show. And this is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena. And folks, 2 years ago I had the pleasure of interviewing Uwe Boll. And I'm having him on again this year because we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of Postal, a film that, despite what the critics say, I really enjoyed this film. Welcome, Uwe.
Hi. Yeah. I enjoyed it too, so I still enjoy it.
Well, when I interviewed you the first time, I interviewed you because of the YouTube video you made where you were addressing, I guess it was a controversial YouTube where you were disappointed with the Kickstarter. And at that time, I hadn't seen any of your films, so I've gotten acquainted a little bit since I had done that interview, and I, like I said, really loved Postal. So there you go.
Yeah, it fits good in the time now, basically, right? So I think it didn't age. We basically, the real world growed into the postal world.
Well, I was looking up some stuff on you last night just to get a little more reacquainted. I gotta say, you know, when I've been out of school for over 25 years, but man, I was a massive bully victim. And as I was looking up you last night, it was like, what is this garbage about a petition to get you to stop directing?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, look, that was all that geeks basically who jumped on it. And trying to stop that idea. I did all that video game-based movies, House of the Dead, Alone in the Dark, Blood Rain, and they hated me for it, and they basically pictured me as their main enemy, basically. That was, 10 years ago, and it never stopped.
well, you know what? I could think of some other filmmakers they could be petitioning against. I remember seeing a movie called Pearl Harbor back in 2001, and it was one of those movies I remember seeing, and I walked out angry, and I wanted to hit the director in the face for taking a real-life tragedy and turning it into a love story, and basically not having a single three-dimensional Japanese character in it at all. I won't name names, but, I think we know who I'm talking about.
I can say the name Michael Bay. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and people can, pick on you. And by the way, I haven't seen House of the Dead or Alone in the Dark. I understand they've gotten bad reviews, but
Yes.
but here's the thing. Michael Bay, I thought I think The Island I thought was underrated. I liked that. Pain and Gain was better than I thought it was going to be.
I agree. It was kind of also a satire kind of thing. It was so overdrive. I actually liked it.
Yeah, and it was a decent performance out of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, which he's actually a little against type for him. But Armageddon and especially Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor just left me angry, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I never forgot that anger when I left the theater. So
yeah, it was kind of an advertising clip for the military industry, and the same problem I have with the Transformer movies.
Yep.
I think it's less about toys, it's more about glorifying war and glorifying violence and technology and stuff like this, and I think it's very dangerous, this kind of films.
Well,
especially in today's time, so. Yeah.
I just remember when Pearl Harbor came out, the studio was wondering how they were going to sell this to Japan, and they decided, we're going to advertise it as a love story. And I thought, and I had somebody ask me why I consider Pearl Harbor a racist film. Well, that pretty much paints a picture right there.
Yeah. No, I agree. It is racist, and it's that is this kind of let's say the way Hollywood tried to make money with mega blockbusters, but on the other hand, I see a lot like this kind of films. They come across like from the Iron Man to Captain America and movies like this. They come across like harmless popcorn movies, but overall, I think very dangerous movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because they put in the brain of especially the younger generation now that the superheroes or the good people are always coming from the West. They're mostly white, of course, and it's also it comes across you can solve problems or you have to solve all the problems with violence.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And,
It's interesting you bring that up. I got a story for you. A few years, actually, I don't know how long ago. It would have been about 5 years ago. I had somebody who was telling me that every copy of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo should be burned because of the rape scenes. And I loved The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, especially the David Fincher version with Rooney Mara.
Yeah,
so,
I like that too.
Yeah. So I caught him months later coming out of a theater with his son. They were watching The Amazing Spider-Man. And I walked up to him. I said, "So, you're okay with the violence in this film?"
Yeah.
And it's funny because he doesn't. Here's the thing: The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo forces you to think about the violence in question. It's not glorifying it. You're being forced to think about it. That's why it's so brutal. That's why it's so offensive. You're not forced to think about the violence in The Amazing Spider-Man or Captain America or Iron Man. You're sitting there basically bathing in it.
No, I agree. It's this kind of, that is all harmless because it's fake or it's like all CGI. And if a movie comes with some realistic kind of violence, it's all that will be then banned basically. And I think I did it in my last two movies were like Rampage 2 and Rampage 3, and they're all about domestic terrorism and basically white domestic terrorism, like more from the right side. And I think that is a realistic that we're facing this kind of situation right now worldwide, where the right-wingers are growing. They normally have the weapons. They are ex-military. There are a lot of people who work in law enforcement. And so I see always this, and you see an American President Trump who basically celebrates the Ku Klux Klan. So I see there a lot of problems that this kind of, especially with people like Trump, justifying actions and justifying violence and breaking the law and hitting people in the face in conventions and rallies and so on. And I think that is the first step to this kind of vigilante kind of situation. And with more and more disasters like hurricanes, floods, and stuff like this, we will get more and more into problems with this kind of behavior, this kind of justified violence. And I think the movies of Hollywood are not doing anything to make kids think that is a really bad thing.
Yep, I agree.
You know? Yeah, you see how easy people getting killed and everybody's good with it in the movies. You know, they're just like have this kind of illusion about violence based on all that movies that they don't have a big problem with it in reality later.
Yeah. So, are you basically now retired from filmmaking?
Yes, I mean Rampage 3 was my last movie. I killed the terrorist off, Bill Williamson, in the third one, and the problem is for me, like all the business now is in TV. So you don't have DVD revenues anymore. And TV doesn't pay good. I mean, they pay good if you are like Adam Sandler or Brad Pitt and you shoot a movie for Netflix, they give you $30 million. But if I make a movie, they give me $80,000. So to buy the movie. But if I have zero DVD revenues, like in earlier years, of course, with Blockbuster, in rental, and so on, that basically destroys my chance to have a normal budget, like to spend $2, $3, $4 million on a movie. So I basically am forced to make movies with $200,000, and I just cannot do this. It's so it's impossible, and that is the reason that I felt like before I start making student films again, basically, and going backwards in time, how I started, I have to stop it and that is the reason I retired.
Well, I still get Blu-rays, and I did order Postal on Blu-ray on Amazon. So I enjoyed that movie. You're right. I actually don't have television set up. I just watch my Blu-rays right now. Too much reality TV. I'm not particularly interested in that stuff, Much rather just watch my movies.
Yeah, no, but I totally agree. There is in North America, also in Germany, is still some market left. But you have to see, for a movie, you need money out of every single country, basically, Spain, Italy, France. And they don't have DVDs anymore. It's really like, in France, for example, they didn't even make a DVD out of Rampage. They just showed it online, Apple iTunes and stuff like this. And the money you get there is so low that it doesn't make any sense. And Asia, Eastern Europe, it's all pirated. So they steal your movies. They don't even buy your movies anymore and pay you $5,000 or whatever. They pay you nothing. They buy a Blu-ray in America and then they rip it. So that all comes together, and that all ends in a situation where a normal independent filmmaker is basically out of business. I mean, here in Vancouver, the film industry is booming, but not with Canadian movies. It's just booming because all the U.S. TV channels producing their TV movies here and the TV shows.
Yeah.
So Hallmark, Lifetime, and so on.
That bothers me, too, because I've promoted a lot of movies that were made here in Canada that really have a really good, strong cult following, and it'd be nice to get back to that, and movies like Class of 1984, Meatballs, Porky's, Trailer Park Boys, Bon Cop, Bad Cop, Black Christmas, Curtains. I could go on. So many really good movies that were made here, and now it's like Canada can't put their stamp on anything because now it's the American studios coming down here because it's cheaper to make them. But I don't like that.
No, and I mean, the industry here likes it a lot, and that's the reason they do the labor tax rebates and everything. But there was never really, there were individual Canadian movies who broke out, but overall, Canadian movies had the same fate like German movies, basically. From time to time, you have something what travels, like what people watch around the globe, like Life of Others, The Tin Drum, like some German good movies. Mm-hmm. But overall, nobody knows German movies. And it's like they make maybe 80 German movies a year, and really 5 getting an attention in Germany. And from the 5, maybe one of them gets sold in other countries. I mean, that is how bad it is. And Canada has basically an advantage because it's all in English language, at least. So it should be easier to make Canadian movies selling to U.S., but it's not. It just doesn't happen.
Because of the government
keeps everything out. Yeah, they keep everything out, and they also, I think, Telefilm especially, they're not really supporting movies they could be from interest worldwide.
True.
I think they're going very much culture, Canada, internal stuff, but they don't give money to producers. They could do something what people want to see in Brazil and in Spain and France and England. So that is another problem.
Yeah, I agree. And I also, a lot of people we're talking about you challenging people to boxing matches because people didn't like your film. Here's one thing I'm going to say about that. I interviewed you 2 years ago. I know why you were challenging people to boxing matches. It wasn't because they didn't like your film. It's because they weren't watching your film. They were just giving it a negative review. Am I correct or what?
Exactly.
That
was the thing what was really, for me, pushing me over the edge, is this kind of ignorance. Other directors, they make 1 or 2 good movies in the beginning of their career, and then they're getting, even for the worst movies ever. For example, I think Terrence Malick did really one of the last 5 movies of Terrence Malick. They were just horrible, and because it's Terrence Malick, they're still getting top stars playing in it. They're still getting festival screenings around the world, and everybody is kind of like polite,
Yep.
And in my case, they didn't even watch my movies and trashed me into the ground. For even movies like Darfur, about the genocide in Darfur, the Assault on Wall Street, about the bailout on Wall Street, they were all good movies. They were not like House of the Dead or Alone in the Dark. But they didn't watch them, and they still bashed them. And I think that is, for a reviewer, I think that is like the worst. It's like basically you don't do your job. You're just a sloppy, basically internet geek who thinks you can gain more traction if you bash Uwe Boll.
Exactly. Because I'm pretty sure, like I haven't seen House of the Dead or Alone in the Dark, but if I gave one of them a negative review, but I've actually seen it, I'm sure you're not going to challenge me to a fight over it. You might ask me why.
Yeah, but also I never said that these are like the masterpieces of my career, and I think they are super good. I mean, if you do a zombie movie like House of the Dead, where kids getting chased by zombies on an island, you are kind of limited too. It's based on the Sega video game, and I think for that what the game is, I brought that on screen, but I didn't brought on screen. Let's say three-dimensional characters and great actors, because also you don't get great actors playing in a movie like this. So and that is the thing. It's like this came all together, and I mean the other funny thing is that till today, House of the Dead was my most profitable movie. What made the most money, and that shows also like you make in a way a primitive zombie shooter movie, and you actually make money. And that reflects what we said about the superhero movies. It's like easier to get an audience with total simple stuff, and then you get bashed, but at the same time people buy the DVD and go in that movie. And then you make a movie what is maybe harder to watch, and it's because it's so realistic, like the Darfur movie, what is exceptional good. If you watch like Hotel Rwanda, you will love my Darfur movie. And in US they named it Attack on Darfur. But it's really heartbreaking, violent, realistic. It's a great movie. But people, like all that geeks, they don't even watch this.
Yeah.
And then they write, that's another 1 out of 10 from Uwe Boll, the worst movie ever, without ever watching it.
Yeah, and that is not right. I do tend to watch the movies that I review, but I don't know. I always mention the Friday the 13th case. I don't know how many times I've read a review for Friday the 13th Part 3 that said another group of camp counselors going off and getting slaughtered when there's no camp counselors in it. Same
they
thing.
just assumed that is the case, right?
Yeah, like it's just nonsense. I thought one of the funniest was I think it was Movie Guide. They're a religious group I don't care for. They believe the same thing I do. It's just what they practice and how they go about it I don't care for. But they gave you a negative review. I forget what movie it was, but then they went on to say that you're a nice guy that just wanted to make movies and whatnot. And I'm sitting there thinking, you bunch of kiss asses. You just don't want them to punch you out.
Yeah, they got scared then. After the boxing fights, I had that reputation, and then they got a little scared about like facing me in public and stuff like this. But I mean, coming back to the boxing fights, I think it was a good public stunt. The consequence was, of course, every single festival invited me then to boxing fights to promote their film festivals. And I did one thing, debates and boxing in Austin at the Alamo Film Festival against the festival boss. But that was it. And I said also, this is it, because that is not like what my idea was. I'm not like going around now and fight people who I have nothing against it. For me, the point here with the boxing fights was revenge.
Yeah.
It was really to show, like, guys, you have to come out of hiding and face me. If you want to destroy me, you have to face me and in the ring. Like, do it. Try it.
Yeah, I understand Michael Bay turned you down a boxing fight. Man, I would have liked to seen you clip him.
Yeah, that was really like too bad, because that would be actually a fight that could really make money too. So that would be like a pay-per-view event.
Yeah. Oh well. How many boxing fights did you do?
I did 5 in total.
And did you win them all?
Yeah, I won them all. But I really trained hard for the fights, and I mean I was at this point already over 40 or around 40. And but when I was young, I boxed like a longer period of time in Leverkusen in Germany. So for me it was like if I go back to training, I will not get beaten up. I had no clue if I will win all the fights, or because I didn't know how these people looked like before I saw them actually in front of me before the fight. So because it was all picked out of the internet and people by the names, but I didn't get photos or the weight, the size. I don't know. So, but I felt like, let's do it. And I trained hard enough to defend myself if I have to fight like whatever, a 300-pound crazy person. I think I was fast enough to run away from it.
What did tell me when they came into the boxing fight? What was their reaction to you after they lost?
Divided up. 2 were really fair and said, okay, we lost, and we actually met Uwe now. We talked to him because everybody who came, I gave a chance also to like have a real conversation with me for 1 or 2 hours after the fight, 2 before the fight, 2 after the fight. And Jeff Schneider, who's now with the Variety, he really throwed up after the fight on the sidewalk. He got punched in the stomach a few times. And he said when he came back to Los Angeles, they all had his throw up video on their screensaver. So in the office. So he took it with humor. And it was only basically one guy who really tried to keep bashing me and said to everybody, Uwe promised us it's a show fight. He will never hit us for real.
Oh, gee.
And then he did. And I said, guys, the other 3 also said that is bullshit. It was crystal clear that will be real and not like dancing around in the ring.
Did you challenge the people from Movie Guide to a fight?
No.
Darn it.
The movie guy wasn't. Yeah, I know what the movie.
Darn it, because those are guys I would like to take in the ring.
Yeah, I got the later calls, and when I met other directors, they said, "I wish I could do it. I would do it too." Like, there were a lot of people loaded up in their careers against reviewers. Some directors have only problem with one specific reviewer, for example, and others have problems on with tons of reviewers.
Well, you know what? I got Postal on Blu-ray. I gotta say, I watched that, and I saw it online somewhere, and I said to my brother, I gotta get this. So I ordered it, and I got it several months ago, and I like the Blu-ray quality best. And I've done several interviews from Postal, so I've really pushed that film. And I think it's such a misunderstood movie.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was surprised that I got basically 80% bad reviews for Postal. I was really surprised. I couldn't believe it. I felt like that is a movie, especially reviewers, newspaper reviewers and so on, should be totally pushing that movie and say that is a total overdrive, crazy satire about the American dream.
Yep.
About the whole, there's so much in, Bush, Bin Laden, September 11, but also gun control, this kind of, in America, how many people believe the American dream, but living in a trailer park.
Yep.
They don't get it, that for them the American dream was only to be like slave workers. So for the real rich people and stuff like this. It is amazing to see like how misunderstood the movie was. And for example, in New Jersey at the film festival, I showed it. I got totally attacked by the people that said, "You make fun out of the September 11 victims." And I said, "No, I'm not." I said, "I make fun out of the terrorists who basically are willing to die because they have that idiotic idea they're getting like into virgins if they do this, right? So, and I
Yep.
said that is the funny scene in the beginning. It's not making a joke out of September 11th. So but I gave them also, like, I countered also like this kind of stuff, because after September 11th, we know how much America used that situation to start a war against Iraq.
Yep.
And we all know that was not Saddam Hussein doing September 11th, and indeed it was never Saddam Hussein who supported any kind of Al-Qaeda terrorism. So it was this kind of stuff I tried to show in Postal, like connecting the Bin Laden family with Bush, like their buddies. What is actually the truth? We all know that the Bush family made deals with the Bin Laden family in real estate and oil in Saudi Arabia. Not with Osama bin Laden, but with the rest of his family. They are all facts. And I think so Postal, so crazy it is, so close is it to the truth. And I think that it's not only like a dirty comedy. I think Postal really nails the failure of American politics and American failure of foreign politics, especially.
I think the key scene in that movie was Bush and Bin Laden prancing off into the meadows there, hand in hand. I think a lot of us have kind of see where you're going with that, even those that won't admit it.
Yeah. And if you look at the situation now, you could actually picture Kim Il-jung with Donald Trump doing exactly this. I mean, look at these guys. Kim Il-jung is out of his mind. He shoots one bomb after the other in the ocean. And Trump is the guy who is also out of his mind, who would basically start a third world war. Or whatever, like at least a nuclear attack against North Korea is not off limits for him. And so it's basically we could run in situations like this where things escalating up to an absurd situation where we actually have nuclear bombs falling on countries during our lifetime. I mean, that is the world we're living in now.
Yeah. And I got to admit, too, I like the opening scene. Yeah, I could see where people could find it off color, but at the same token, I totally got your point of view on that opening scene.
Yes. I mean, of course, it's like we all know that was the biggest terrorist attack in history, with the most victims in history, and I think the whole world showed to U.S. Right after solidarity, and we were all on the side of America, military, like Germany, Canada. We all went in, at least in Afghanistan, all military countries were involved. The German troops are still in Afghanistan. And so I think we showed, yes, we are on the side of America, but at the same time, why we should not, years after this attack, also have the freedom of a satire. Look at Dr. Strangelove or whatever. That was the Cold War satire. Mm-hmm. So I think that is the basic thing what movies should do. They should be commentaries, also in a funny way, about the world we're living in, and you should bend rules and break rules in satires.
Yep. Well, I've had a few interviews on here besides yourself from Postal. I've had Zack Ward on here twice. Also, making films, independent films. He come on here this year. I had him on in June, and last year I had him on in June as well. And he enjoyed working with you, and I thought that he made the perfect everyman, down on his luck hero for the movie. And I like the fact that you cast him in it.
Absolutely. I totally agree. That was Zack Ward's role, basically. I mean, I have to say, I used him in Blood Rain 2 later, too. It was good, but you cannot compare it. So it's like, it was really like, he nailed it. And he was just perfect. And I remember when we did casting in Los Angeles, he was actually reading for one of the cops.
Okay.
And then I was sitting there and looked to Dan Clark, my producer, and we said, no, that is the Postal dude. I mean, look at him.
Yeah.
You know, he almost asked us for like paying him a cab ride back. So he was he was really like acting besides reading for the cop. Like the way he was this kind of Postal, like this hustler kind of guy, but at the same time, you look at him and you know his life is just an amalgamation of bad luck.
One of my favorite scenes is where there's a shootout there, and he's going around the floor trying to get that closest number so he can go to the teller.
Yeah, I know. In the welfare office.
Yeah, that was clever. I'm sorry, but I got to hand it to you. That was a funny scene, you know?
Yeah, I love that too. Where because it's so absurd. You think when the shooting starts, you think, okay, now another like violent sequence, but then it totally turns into total absurdity that you're actually using it, and then of course they close right before it's his.
Yeah. Another thing, too, when he goes to his trailer, and I mentioned this to him, too, when he goes there and his wife is having sex with somebody else and he's kind of booted out of his own trailer, it kind of reminded me, and he kind of agreed with this, it reminded me a little bit of a John Waters film. Was that an inspiration for you there?
Yeah, I like the earlier John Waters films for the style, and of course, I mean that was. It's not like directly that I think, oh, that is inspired by John Waters, but of course, when people ask me, I always say I'm inspired by all films I ever saw, and then they're just like in your saved in some part of your brain, and you, if you know it or not at this point, you use this reservoir. Basically, you use this kind of stuff, what you saw in other movies, to make your own movies. So that is the thing where I always feel. I'm always driven to tell the story and to tell the story in the most efficient way, the most way you get gripped by the story. But of course, you have in your brain how other directors do their movies and and you steal. Basically, you think, okay, that is a typical Orson Welles, and I do it now. So, and I think that it's a good thing.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too, and like I said, Zack Ward enjoyed working with you, and I really thought he was terrific casting. I loved the job interview with that chair, just as. How did you come up with something like that? Because that just seems like a small thing that becomes a big thing.
Yeah, I mean that was always when we wrote it, and that was the script. After a long time, I wrote a script again. So it was for me also being free again in a way. I'm not now a slave anymore of these video games, and I give a shit basically. And now I want to do something going back to the roots, being more humoristic, and I thought about scene by scene what could happen in that scene. What is the dialogue, whatever happens, gets added. We add things on what makes that scene completely absurd or funny. And so whatever you saw, the company's fight song they have to sing right after, and so we tried in Postal, and I think that's the reason it's still my favorite movie too. What I have always fun to watch. I watched it last summer in Germany in a movie theater where they showed it again for a night, and the people were laughing their ass.
Is it your favorite of your movies?
Yes.
I love this film, yes.
Yeah, me too, because it's like, of course, maybe Darfur is maybe the better movie, whatever, the more important movie, but Postal is really, I think nobody ever did this. And it's really brings a fresh breeze in a genre where humor was almost going only in that Something Mad About Mary, Hangover. So we have good comedies, but they were never really political. They are just a funny movie, and I love comedy. So but I felt here I brought really this kind of hangover fun into something what is more, what is really like kind of an almost an a reflection, a mirror of reality on so many different levels. Because
Yep.
take the welfare office. Of course, that scene would never happen like this. But what happens is that people getting turned down, that people wait forever.
Yep.
Like this kind of that they don't care about you there. They just go for lunch and you still sit 3 hours. So that kind of stuff
Yep.
is very, very realistic.
Yes,
but
it
of course,
is.
everything, all the job interviews, they're getting more and more idiotic
Yep.
in today's time, like psychological evaluations and whatever. Like 40 years ago, we just say, okay, whatever, how much I get per hour, I do it. And now it's all about, is he fitting in the team? And what kind of vibe comes across? I mean, it's completely absurd. We're living in an absurd world, and I think Postal shows this.
Yes. I also had the pleasure, I had Jackie Tone on last year as well,
Yeah.
And yeah, she was wonderful. And I love that scene. Again, we can all relate. She's at the coffee shop and this guy can't make up his bloody mind what he wants. And she just explodes.
Yeah, but that is the case.
Yeah.
Look at the coffee shops also. Let's say 25 years ago. You just have to go to Italy right now. You get espresso or cappuccino,
Yeah.
right? Or black coffee. But you don't get 150,000 different ways of coffee.
Yeah.
I wanted Thai tea, soy milk, non-fat, non-coffee in coffee. Okay, then don't drink coffee. And that was the thing. Like, that was really based on things I saw at Starbucks, and where I waited in line, and I had people in front of me where I think how can you even order this? I mean, I don't even know that a drink like this would ever exist. And that was my commentary to it.
Yes. What was it like working with Jackie? I had a good chat with her last year.
Yeah, I love working with her, and she came to the casting in LA with her guitar. She's a singer,
Mm-hmm.
and we loved her energy.
Yep.
She had this positive driving force energy, and I think even if she was not super experienced as an actress, but I felt like that is great. That will totally work with her. This kind of honest, but funny and can be tough from time to time girl. And I'm still super happy with her. I mean, I'm very mad that we never could Postal 2. I mean, it would now 10 years later. It would be great to follow up.
Well, I'm hoping I can encourage you to do that. Come out of retirement.
Yeah, but coming back to the Kickstarter campaign, if other people raising $2 million for
Yeah.
if nobody gives us money, I don't know. I mean, I met so many people in conventions, whatever. Like, you can say, if in a convention or film festival, people coming with a DVD for me to sign, 50% of the DVDs are Postal.
Wow.
Yeah, 50%.
There
and
you
I made
go.
32 movies. And I think that speaks clearly. But why these people didn't pop up then at the Kickstarter, or why, that is the thing. What I don't get. I get so much positive feedback over the years for Postal, and as I said, last year we showed it in by Frankfurt in movie theater. It was packed. 200
Wow.
people paid a ticket, and you think, okay, but how is it then so hard for me? How is it so easy for Spike Lee to raise $2-3 million on Kickstarter, and I'm not getting anything? I mean, that is the thing. It's like, that it's kind of a downer. It's kind of, why, are they lying to me? And they say Postal is a great movie, and then they don't think it, or I don't know. But as a customer for good movies, I mean, I'm a big movie geek too, and I love movies. But I would be willing for, if I would just not Uwe Boll, I'm just a person, I would pay for Postal $250 and would say, I want that movie, do it, right? So I would do it, and I don't know why we don't find 10,000 people worldwide doing it, and we would have enough money to make Postal.
Yeah, I get your point, and those Kickstarter and whatnot, they can be a hit or miss. I've seen them miss more than hit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and they promise to promote the movie on their own, but they don't.
Yeah.
They leave it all with you, right? So, and I cannot put a video up and put a concept up, and then every day I get some new incentive. I mean, that is the thing. It's it comes down also to the people say, okay, if I want Postal 2, I sign up and I'm in with $50 or $100, whatever I come in with, but it's like I cannot spend 500,000 to get 800,000.
Yeah.
That is the other thing. If you have to give like a free Blu-ray in the end and a free T-shirt and a signed autograph, and you have to send it to everybody, and you know what registered mail in Canada costs, like $30. So then that it doesn't bring me anything if I give you all of this, if you give me $50, because I will have the $50 on my costs then later. So the whole idea is, if people want to see Postal 2, is to give me the money, and then later they still buy a Blu-ray.
Yeah.
So I mean that is the thing. But that was one of the reasons I said I'm not doing this stuff anymore. It's just like too frustrating for me.
Well, we're going to celebrate Postal's 10-year anniversary anyway, and you get some really good people, not just Zack Ward and Jackie Tone. I mean, Dave Foley. I love that scene where he's taking a shit and he walks up and there's a big puddle of it behind him.
Yeah. That was unbelievable. And, for example, I also sent to Netflix. I sent to them, let's do Postal 2 together, or let's do Postal the TV show. And they totally not interested.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You can start with your radio program a petition. Like, everybody should email Postal. They want the Postal show on Netflix. I mean, they produce so much stuff. Why not doing something really crazy at one point?
Would be nice. Well, right now I'm just a volunteer here, so like I don't right now. I'm not making money at these interviews. I'm just I do this because I have a passion for it. And so I see movies like Postal, and I'm like, wow, I want to, this is why I'm not promoting Titanic's 20th anniversary, because I'm more interested in Postal's 10th anniversary. Postal spoke to me more than Titanic did,
Yeah, not only to you.
Yeah. But, I mean, And you had Dave Foley, you had J.K. Simmons, and you got an Oscar winner now in your movie.
Yeah. And it's also the thing, I never got credit for all of this. For example, in one of my first movies I made in Vancouver was Heart of America. Mm-hmm. And it's about a Littleton school massacre. And my lead actress was Elizabeth Moss.
Okay.
I mean, who won the Emmys now? Who's in Handmaid's Tale, Mad Men, West Wing, all the shows she did. And she's a big star. And you think, nobody. When I sent the movie around, and Heart of America is actually a really good movie, that nobody gave a shit. Okay, we still don't buy it.
Wow.
Yeah, and you think okay, I don't know who else I should bring to the table. I mean, she is really every day she's on the cover of Variety, she was on Vanity Fair, everything. So you would think if she was the lead actress in Heart of America, at least somebody would buy it for $50,000 for Amazon or Netflix. But also they didn't buy it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And of course, Vern Troyer. How much fun was he to work with?
He was actually very cool. So he had a little scooter driving from his trailer because he's so small, like a little buggy driving to set.
Yeah.
But as you see, he's doing everything what you want from him, even getting raped by monkeys. So and he had fun because we had to put him in that suitcase. So it was kind of a harder shoot for him, but he loved it. He really loved it, and I'm very happy that he did the movie. He has a great sense of humor, and any time I would do with him another movie.
Yes, originally I guess that role was supposed to be for Gary Cole, who passed away, huh?
Yes. But Gary Coleman, he said, because he's in the original Postal video game, and he said he doesn't want to swear.
Oh.
And he said, are you kidding us? I mean, you are in the game. You swear in the game all the time. But I changed, and he said he changed his mind. He doesn't want to swear, say, whatever, in the movie anymore. And I felt okay, I cannot do this. Sorry. And then we came to Vern Troyer, who didn't have a problem with it.
Gary Coleman didn't want to swear. Wow.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I don't know what happened to him, but yeah.
Well, Vern Troyer worked out. What was it like putting him in the suitcase?
Yeah, we had that dildo with a light as the light for the scene, and then so we had to put him in the suitcase, close the suitcase, transported him a little, but then we of course cut the suitcase. We put him in a dark room to get the camera in. So that was when we actually with the camera in the suitcase. That is of course a set we had to do to get the camera in. It was 35 millimeters. So you imagine how big the camera was. So, but he whatever we asked him to do, you remember the thing when they throwed him from the stage?
Okay, yep.
Yeah, that one, the bodyguards, they throw him. That was dangerous, right? So because his bones are very fragile, they break very fast. And he said, "Oh, whatever, throw me. He will catch me." and he catched him, but it was good.
I love the scene too. The guy in the wheelchair that's completely out of his mind. The guy's using him, and Zack Ward moves him over there to this gate and climbs up on top of him so he can get up over.
Yeah, that was really this poor guy. It was unbelievable. And that is, I think that is the most tasteless scene of Postal. It's when Zack uses him basically to get over the fence, and then the police guy comes and actually turns out even worse.
Yep.
He's just like the slave of the police guy, sitting on the corners and collect some money. I mean, that is it's really bitter. But I love this kind of humor. I have a very dirty humor, a very black humor, and I love this stuff.
Well, you know what? Maybe that's kind of the point to me. Zack Ward did a bad thing, but yet the cop was even worse, and he's the cop you'd think you could depend on. He takes him in.
When they shoot the Chinese driver, the woman.
Oh yes.
They put that on the postal dude too. And he shoot that innocent Chinese woman. Yeah. So and but think about that scene. That was 10 years ago, 11 years ago, shot. And so we did it, of course, a black guy shoots a Chinese woman. But since then, how many times we had that racist-driven cops shooting black people?
Yep.
Of course, 150,000 times. And it all came, in earlier years, with more cameras observing everything. We have an avalanche of these videos in the internet and the kind of killings and the discussions about it. And of course, in a comedy, I think it's then your job to make it different.
Mm-hmm.
To have that black guy, because he cannot stand the N-word. But of course, in reality, she never said it, but he just hated her for her slow driving. So I think that is really funny. I love this stuff.
Do you have any crotchy dolls?
Yes, I have one left. And it's really I asked when they did that, I think Vince from Running with Scissors from the video game company, he made only a few, and I had one crotchy doll in the box, the original ones, what you see in the movie. I had one left, and I'm an idiot that I didn't took from the set. I should took 50 crotchy dolls. I think they would make now very good money on eBay.
Yeah, I would think so. You can't get that duplicated?
No, I think that has to be completely new manufactured then.
Wow.
For it, yeah. So that is too bad.
Now, where did the idea come from to do the crotchy doll?
I think the crotchy doll is also in the game.
Okay. I never played.
But of course, not like the. With that it's like a ball tech. Basically, it's in the game. But I don't think the commentaries we have actually the bird flew in it and that the crotchy doll can talk. That we never had in the. That is not in the game.
You see, I've never played.
The idea that it's all about a ball-sack little doll.
Yeah.
Right? So the whole world is depending on this now. It's totally absurd.
Yeah, I've never played the game, so I'm unfamiliar with that. But you do make a cameo in it, where this reporter ends up saying the F word and getting fired, and because he says it based on something your character says. And of course, another one of these absurd moments. What made you take that role? course, you're
I
playing.
think to do like a little Nazi theme camp,
Yeah.
I needed, I basically needed to be there. Yeah, so as a real German, and then as you know, if you do like, if you Google it, there were a lot of people writing, Uwe is making his movies with Nazi gold. And I felt here is the perfect opportunity to confirm it. You know, like to just say, like, of course it's all the Nazi gold. Yeah, so to make a joke out of it. And because it was everywhere, even in Wikipedia they wrote that. And I felt like, are these people crazy? I mean, is it really so far ahead, like that they do everything, they put every lie out about me? So and I felt here is the perfect opportunity to put that up.
I thought your cameo in that was really funny, and of course, that's before the big shootout happens, and of course you offend the TV guy who ends up saying it's just like with the, you had Zack Ward using the wheelchair guy, but yet the cop ended up using the wheelchair guy worse. Well, here you're saying something offensive, but yet the reporter ends up saying the F word, and he ends up being more offensive.
Yes, and then the other reporter is super happy about the massacre because she thinks that brings her national television.
Yeah.
When everybody gets shot, then she's like, yes. Yeah. And I mean, I think it's so. This kind of scenes, how they always escalate and turn into a different kind of thinking, a different kind of, in the beginning you think, oh, that scene goes this way, and then we top it and it goes in a different way. And that I think is very nice in Postal done in a lot of the scenes. I mean, the Taliban, how they're hiding in that store and stuff like this. I mean, there's so many surprise scenes. Every scene I have a blast watching. And it's this kind of movie where you also you sit in the audience and then you watch it and now comes this scene. And then you're already like feeling happy because you maybe have a few people in the audience that didn't watch it so far, and then you see the impact.
And of course, you have Michael Pear back. You've used him in a lot of your movies.
Yeah.
And
I did a great job.
Yeah.
This thing, like, he always plays the cops, the stoic cops, or whatever. But he shows in Postal he has really good comedian talent.
Mm-hmm. And another person I've interviewed on here back in June was Lindsay Hollister.
Yes.
I had her on here. We were talking about Blubberella, which I also had the pleasure of seeing. And, of course, she has that nice job interview scene where she just taunts and torments Zack Ward, And, I watched Blubberella. I got to say I like Postal better, but I personally, I think you do well doing black comedies.
No, I agree. I think if we would have more time, more money for Blubberella, we shot that parallel to the Blood Rain movie, and we just didn't have enough time for it. And Lindsay is so a good comedian, so it felt flat. On like half of the movie is kind of flat, half of the movie I think is hilarious. And on Postal we just had the money, the time to make it properly, to focus on one product only, and that was Postal. So it is. There are worlds in between the quality, I think, between Postal and Blubberella. But I think to do funny things or to make funny scenes, I'm actually the right person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm and I can also adjust to the situation if something doesn't happen. And I think that at some directors they cannot do this because they're not funny people. But everybody who knows me, like private, whatever, I'm actually very funny. So I can entertain a group like out of my ass, basically. And a lot of my Q&As in front of the audience is almost like stand-up comedy. So I did a great one with Zack Ward in Texas at one point. People laughed their ass up at the Q&A, and I think that is an asset. And too bad that, as I said, like I would love to do a funny TV show where we can basically go overboard. And I mean, the good thing with the new players like a Netflix, Amazon, Hulu is they don't have to be clean, like language or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody cares. You can do whatever you want. So that is a good thing on that new entity. But it's too bad that they didn't they didn't pick me so far, and I didn't want to do a production with me.
Well, I gotta say, I liked Blubberella, and I reached out to Lindsay, had a nice chat with her, and I thought it was great to see her in that lead. I mean, she plays this vampire, and she's got this I don't care attitude. She just walks up and grabs a sandwich away from the Nazi. I liked her in that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think she has a huge comedian talent. I saw that in Postal. We saw that then in that Steve Carell film, The I Spy, or whatever. So she is a driving force, and I like that idea to have like basically a fat superhero, who doesn't care. And there are a lot of scenes in Blubberella. They are so absurd, also with Clint Howard as Dr. Mengele and so on. I think that a lot of people did a good job there. So, but as I said, it would be way better, the movie, if we would have more shooting time and could experiment a little more.
What was it like working with Clint Howard?
I mean, I did a lot of movies with him. He's in a lot of my movies, and he's a good friend. And he always delivers. He's like a total, I mean, he was a child actor, so he knows everything.
Yeah.
And he knows every lens, every camera position, he knows exactly how they will look like. And he always, I mean, the way he looks and he talks, of course, you pick him for parts where he fits, right? So, but, I mean, I'm as I said, he's one of the people in Hollywood also I can always call, always email, he always emails back. And that is not the case with a lot of actors, So most of the actors, you pay them, they disappear, and they don't care anymore until you make a new offer.
Well, one thing I always found odd with Blubberella, you see them marching, and there's like somebody in a what is that, a fish costume? What is that? Just topples over and is fluttering.
And you know who that is? That is Natasha Malta, the Blood Rain actress. She played that fish.
Oh, I think that's funny. I'm watching this and I'm like, what is going on here? What is with the fish?
Yeah, we felt that it's like surrealism, like Louis Buñuel films from Spain from the 50s. I think so, like doing absurd things. So I felt like let's do it. And she wanted to do it. I said, okay, that is your cameo. You're a fish.
Who was the? I don't remember the name of the woman that you guys had in the jail there. That Clint Howard
tortured.
I can't remember the name of the. She ended. Oh man, I can't remember. I'm trying to find the notes I had on Lindsay when I interviewed her, but I can't find them. But
that was a Sofia Kagan. She is like basically a singer.
Okay.
And I think we hired her to play that woman, like, who turns into a vampire. And I don't think she ever acted again. I know she's in Germany on tour a lot. So she's like a rock singer, basically.
Yeah, I really enjoyed her in this movie. She ended up, and I actually thought that she was going to attack Clint Howard, but I guess Clint Howard was way ahead of her on that.
Yeah.
I guess he knew what he was doing. Yeah. No, I had fun with Blubberella, Even the scene where you're making fun of Precious, where she's in there and her mom's in bed and whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at that point, Precious was a big movie at that point, right? So, yeah. But I mean, it was a good time. I would love to do another proper comedy like what we did with Postal.
Now, Postal and Blubberella, have you done any other comedies?
Only my very first film, German Fright Movie, 1991. Where, that was basically inspired by Kentucky Fried Movie.
Oh, yes.
And we did a similar thing. So we didn't have a lot of money. So we basically developed like different programs, TV programs, trailers. And we have a guy in front of the TV watching this and zapping from channel to channel. So that is how we did it, and there was a lot of. I love German Fright Movie. It's totally trashy. You see, it's our first film and so on, but it has this kind of rough satire humor what Postal has.
Okay.
Very political, and so as an example, we had in Germany was at one point two people that kidnapped people, and they were actually talking with the police in the car with the kidnappers in the middle of Cologne, and then in the end on the freeway, the police basically smashed the car, but one hostage got shot, and these two people went to jail. And but everybody in Germany saw that, and we made exactly that kind of scene again. And then they actually lose control over their machine gun and shoot like 40 people because they cannot stop it. It's an automatic gun. They cannot stop it. And then they are in a TV talk show later, and they actually got off the hook because by accident they shot only like Turkish migrants. So so that they basically said you killed everybody. But actually there were no Germans with it, so we give a shit. You're free. So but this kind of humor, where you have a scene, what is kind of an absurd scene, turns into a total absurd scene, and then it makes another turn, where the people are stunned about, where they think like, I cannot believe it, so because of course people like so politically correct would never do that joke in Germany.
No.
No, you cannot do this. Oh, the Turkish people will flip completely out, But if you make comedy, you have to have that attitude behind it and think like, I don't care about the consequences. Like, you just put it out there and let's see what's happening,
So what are you, now that you're retired, you're into the restaurant business now?
Yeah, I have the restaurant business, and I have of course, I sell still my movies. I sell other movies. So my event film distribution is still running.
Okay.
And that keeps me very busy. I mean, restaurant business is an everyday business. It's not like you can completely disappear from it. Then everybody drinks for free in your restaurant, and you lose control. So it's basically. Every day I'm with a few hours busy with the restaurant, definitely.
Okay, well, now this is in Vancouver, right?
Yeah, that is in Vancouver, and we're looking into doing. The name is Bauhaus.
Okay.
Restaurant, German high-end food, and we're looking into Toronto to open maybe a Bauhaus in Toronto too.
Okay.
Next year. So
you got to bring one to New Brunswick.
Yeah, it's far away. Yeah, but you have in Canada, and I'm sure you know it, there are a lot of German immigrants from the 50s and 60s that came after the war, and now they're second-generation Germans, and they are actually happy to see, there is a restaurant where you get a good Wiener Schnitzel and beef roulade and some German classics, Spätzle noodles, and stuff like this, and that I was missing that food here in Vancouver, and that was the whole idea behind it.
Oh, wow. Well, whet my appetite on some of the food. You mentioned a few dishes there. Tell me what the best dishes are that you could think of there.
I mean, we have, for example, geschnetzeltes, that is that means chopped up.
Okay.
So it's like a veal chopped up and then pan-fried, and then that comes in a creamy sauce with homemade noodles. And
nice.
So, and then you have in winter, you have the sauerbraten. That is from my hometown, Cologne. It's a big beef roast.
Okay.
It's 5 days in the pot, like 5 days with red wine, balsamico vinaigrette, apple juice, spices. So 5 days you leave it in the pot, and then you braise it 8 hours. So that sauce gets so dark, the meat gets so dark and falls apart, and that with potato dumplings and red cabbage. That is my favorite dish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's heavy, but it's just to die for, because the meat gets a little sour, right, after a time, because of the red wine, because of the balsamico vinaigrette. And then you cook it up, and then that dark sauce with the totally cooked out meat, that with dumplings, is just to die for.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah, see, now we have a reason to travel to Vancouver.
Well, you know what? I've been told by some of my interview guests I got to do the conventions, because I've never been outside New Brunswick, and if I ever ever am in Vancouver, yes, I'd have to stop by there, and have some really good German food. What do you have there for drinks?
No, we have German beer.
Okay.
Like Kölsch from Cologne also, then Pilsener. We have around 15 different German beers. Also Erdinger, like the white beer, like the Weiss beer, what you get like in the one liters things. And cocktails, German wines, like mostly white wines, Riesling from Germany. We have at least 20 different Rieslings. So, we use Canadian food too. We have salmon and so on. But for me, it was important to have always 3 or 4 real German classics on the menu. And then every 2 months, we change the menu. So we don't keep the same stuff cooking because that keeps the chefs also on alert.
Yeah, and it also it provides a variety. Switching it up. That's a great idea. I think more restaurants should do that.
I agree. I know so many restaurants here in Vancouver too, and then you have that. We have like 20 years the same menu. I mean, it's so boring, and I like it to have go with the season. We have white asparagus from Germany, for example, always from April to June, and so we go with the seasons basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your restaurant.
My battery, I only tell you, my battery is almost empty from myself.
Okay.
If we disconnected, we're disconnected. So I only tell you. Yeah.
Okay, we'll both the clothes off. I will say this though, if you still travel back and forth to Germany, because I still remember Nina very well.
Yeah, I go every summer. My mother is still alive. My brother is there. So every summer, over the summer holidays, I drag the whole family to Germany.
Okay, and you get a web page where you sell your movies, right?
Yes, bollflix.com, but we have still technical problems.
Okay.
It's a disaster. So it's like, don't go on it now. So wait a little. Better is if somebody wants to go in contact with me, the eventfilm.us website, and that email address goes straight to me. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Eventually, I might want to get a signed copy of Postal. So
no problem.
I'll have to look into that. Yes. Well, Uwe, it was fantastic having you on my show again. You say you're on Facebook, right?
Yes, I'm from Postal, of course, the photo with Bush and Bin Laden.
Do you mind if I add you?
Absolutely.
I'll do that. I was definitely stay connected. And yes, it was fantastic having you back on here today, celebrating 10 years of Postal. I love the movie. If people don't, that's their problem. I love the movie, and I appreciate you bringing it to us.
Excellent. Thanks so much. We stay in contact. Hopefully, I make another movie before 20 years Postal anniversary is coming up.
Well, before you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Yeah, no problem.
Just state your name and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise out in New Brunswick, Canada. Can you get all that?
I try.
Okay.
Hi, here's Uwe Boll, and you listen to Greg Gilbert's Python's Paradise in New Brunswick, in Canada. The best show.
Thank you so much, Uwe Boll.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay. God bless you. You have yourself a great day.
Thank you. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.